So throughout my 20s, all I wanted to do was make as much money possible, but I never had access to money. I didn't come from money. So I had to figure out exactly what was the best and highest use of my time. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what I did and how I think a lot of other people can copy and do the exact same thing. So I live in Australia, and the largest asset class in Australia by far is real estate. So I always wanted to get into real estate. I knew that money could be made there just being the largest asset class, but I had to work out exactly how I could utilize that asset class and make as much money possible. I firstly looked at sales. I said, hey, look, I don't need any money to get into sales. It could be something that skill set that I learn. I could go work for someone who's in the niche and become really, really good by just essentially working for them for free. Except for me, I'm not essentially a very good salesperson. I am good at creating value, but I didn't have that skill set, and it just didn't entertain me as much as I wanted. So I did it for a little while. We made a couple sales, but it wasn't the driver for me. I didn't like the whole aspect of the job, but I think for other people it could be a really good idea. But I learned a bit from that and then got into property development. Now, you might think, how do you get into property development when you don't have any money? Well, the one thing that I learned and that I want to share in this video, if you take anything away, is that the money isn't created through owning real estate. It's created through controlling real estate. If you look at some of the biggest real estate holders in the world, they don't actually even own it. They might just control it, maybe through a fund or something like that. But controlling is where the value comes from. There's so many stories of guys that went bankrupt. I think even Trump is a story where he was verging on bankruptcy and different financial issues, and he was able to control a piece of real estate even whilst being bankrupt, even whilst being in these financial situations. He controlled a tower, I think it was in New York, and he was able to on-sell the control of that tower to someone else and essentially make the difference in fees. So let's just say he had that tower under contract for $20 million and he had control of it, but he didn't buy it. And then he on-sold it after a period of time for maybe $30 million, and he took that $10 million in fees. That there is an example of controlling real estate rather than owning it. So what I do in Australia, so I don't do towers or anything like that, but what I do is I focus on land. I control land over a long period of time. I add value to it through different mechanisms and then on-sell it to people to actually buy and develop properties. So over the last 10 years, I've done about 1,200 houses in different blocks of land. I haven't built them myself, but I've found land. I've got it approved for different development uses over a certain period of time, and then I've on-sold it to developers with the approval. So I've created value through finding sites, buying them off market, directly to vendors, and then increase the value through getting development approvals, and then selling that to developers to go out and develop the projects. Now you can do this essentially with no money as well. You don't need to go all the way through and get the development approval. You could literally just door knock houses that have development potential, do up some initial plans, whether it be a concept plan or something like that. I've had houses under contract before as low as $1. Typically I'm spending around $10,000 as a refundable deposit. So I would find a house, I'd say, hey, look, I would like to buy this house. I'll put down a deposit, except what I need is I need time to work on this property. Now this could be anywhere from 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, but I use that time to increase the value of the property through different mechanisms, essentially getting it ready to develop and then give it to a developer to develop the property. Now you might say, well, why doesn't the developer just go directly and buy these properties? But in reality, especially in Australia, a lot of people aren't doing things like door knocking or buying these houses off market. They're typically just going online, they're looking at all the listings and they're like, hey, this is online, this looks great, I'm gonna go out and buy this property. So the niche is in doing the work that the other people don't do. The value is created there. So what I do pretty much every day now, even 10 years into doing this, is I'm constantly looking at different maps and I'm looking for houses that have development potential. I'm going out, talking to the owners, I'm contacting them through their phone numbers as well. I'm saying, hey, look, I'd like to buy your property. Would you be interested in selling it? If so, what would you sell it for? They might say a price and I say, that's great. In order to get you that kind of money, I just need time to work on the property. So it might be like, for example, 12 months. Then during that 12 months, I'll start doing some initial work on the property. If it's something that I want to go all the way on and do the full approval for the development, then I'll essentially go ahead, I'll get the approvals in place, and then I'll take it to the market, and I'll show all the developers who have this money who can buy the project at a higher valuation, then go ahead and do the whole development project as well. That's essentially all I do. But I started 10 years ago when I had no money. I started on a project that was $4.5 million. I didn't have $4.5 million. So I found a block of land about half an hour from where I live. And I said, this looks like a great block. We'll play a small deposit and we'll get this under contract for, it ended up being about 2 years. Initially it was like 12 months. Then we got an extension. So we had it under contract for about 2 years. During that time, we were able to do a development approval on the property, and we ended up on selling it for $11 million. So just through holding it and adding value through the approvals, we almost doubled our money on that project. Once we take into account costs and stuff like that, we actually ended up making more money because it came with a few other properties as well. It was a big deal in the end. And that sort of gave me the confidence and the capital to go out and do this more and more. So people said like, oh, you got lucky on your first deal, you know, it's just a lucky site. But there's opportunities out there. People just have to put in the work, put in the effort, and essentially look more rural locations and do it at a lot of volume, because it's a lot harder than just say buying a commercial asset or buying a residential house. But that requires having the money to do that, and it's a lot more passive. This is an active way. If you have the time, if you have the knowledge and education, you can go out there, find opportunities, add value to them, control them over a long period of time, and then on-sell them to developers. The next level, which is sort of where I'm getting to now, is like, you know, I've got the capacity now to develop these 100, 200 lot estates. And what I can do now is, because I'm buying them cheap, and by the time I settle the property, the equity's gone up so much, is it puts me in a really good position to actually go ahead and develop these properties. I built up a lot of equity. I'm not stressing about having all this debt and everything like that. So even if you're interested in developing, it's a great mechanism to learn at the start from buying sites off market, getting the increase in valuation, setting you up to then go and develop these properties down the future, where a lot of developers go bust by just, again, looking at sites online, competing against other developers, paying a premium, leveraging all the way up. And by the time they start developing, issues happen. Markets can fluctuate, they're too over leveraged. But if you have this way to buy sites and generate the value before you even settle on the sites, it sets you up to be really profitable. So yeah, it's a bit of a wholesaling real estate technique where you're essentially just controlling property. But the beauty about focusing on land is that you're looking at the development potential. And sure, you could do that with the house and be like, you know, it's got the ability to build 2 houses or renovations. But with land, we target large size. So we're trying to build, we're targeting 10 hectare blocks, for example, where we could build 100 houses on it. And so we might be buying a house at a house value with a large block of land. The land's permitted for development potential, and we can build 100 houses on this block of land. So you can understand that the ROI and the value uplift is going to be dramatically more than just like a small little wholesale, a small little flip. Now, these sites are a lot harder to find, but that's the whole thing. When I was in my early 20s, I had all the time in the world. I had all the energy in the world. It was like, I didn't really care. It was like, I'll do whatever I have to do in order to make this money. So I'd go out, door knock 10 houses per day, 20 houses per day. I'd make calls in the office, and yeah, got me to where I am today. So again, we've done about 1,200 dwellings. As of this year, I still do it very actively. I've got one project on at the moment that's around 450 homes just on one project. I'm using the exact same mechanism. So I've found the site off market, I've done all my due diligence, I'm now doing the development approval, and by the time I settle it, it's going to be worth 2, 3, 4 times the value. So again, it's just a really good way to generate a lot of equity, to generate value, whether you're planning to flip the site or develop it. It's, in my opinion, the best way to make money in the real estate game, especially if you're limited with capital, but you have the time. You can be active, you can engineer value, and it's something that I envision doing pretty much forever, because as population increases, the land's earnings also increase as well. There's more land that's being zoned for development, and so it's going to be an opportunity and a skill set that you can use forever. So yeah, if you've got any value from that, let me know. Anyway, peace.